3.
Oh boy, video 5, a good friend, the GMAT. Woo! You love the GMAT, don't you, Freddie? You love it.
Oh my God. And
You
the
only you
GMAT,
only you only you only took it 4 times.
yeah, the GMAT, I mean, some people are rock stars. I'm very impressed with those people. I love it. All kudos to them. And there's some people like me who just hate standardized tests, never took them, never did well, super scared. You name it. I had all the emotions going into the GMAT process.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we both bombed. Uh, Definitely our first GMAT. I took it twice, but my story's a little different. You were taking more frequently in between the first time you bombed it and then you got like an amazing score. But I think I got a 570 when I first took it, which is obviously not going to get you into any schools. And then I think I spent a year and a half, and I got it all the way up to, I believe, a 690. So
I started at 580, took it again, got a 600, spent 10,000 on a tutor, got a 600 again.
right.
It's
That's
like
when
the
I sat
most
you down. That's when I sat you down and said, enough
that
of this, man. That's enough.
that's when the secret sauce finally kicked in, and then I got my score from a 600 to a 680 in 2 months, and
Amazing.
that's what we're going to teach here today. It's
Yeah.
you can't buy a GMAT score. Like that's number one.
No,
It's hard work
no.
and perseverance. It's
Yep.
very simple to get a good score. Like this process is very simple, but we went through all the pain and all the bullshit. I mean, I did the Princeton review. That was 1,500 or something. That was a complete waste of time. Like
Yeah.
100% do not do those programs.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm not convinced that one's even better than the other, to be honest. I think they're all kind of a waste of money. You don't need I don't think you really need it. I think it's a crutch. Again, it's a crutch. It's going to like it's like hiring, these essay coaches or these consultants. It's a crutch. You just think because you're just gonna pay for it, it's gonna help you. You still have to do the work. So we're gonna save you a bunch of time, bunch of money, bunch of heartache.
yeah, 100%. This process works. Like I am not the smartest guy in the shed, the tool in the shed, but I used this approach and I got the score I needed to get into Berkeley. So it works, hands
Love
down.
it.
So let's just walk through a quick overview on the overall GMAT, right? There's 3 sections. They're scored from 60 to 90. As you can see over here, the overall score, mean score is 580. That's exactly where our kind of starting points were, John, right? As we just talked
Yeah.
about. This
Yeah.
data
Sounds
is
familiar.
straight from the GMAT test website, right? So this is just the ultimate true source of record that you should be looking at when doing the GMAT. Um,
Yep.
the different sections, data insights, quantitative reasoning, verbal reasoning, everybody's good at different things, right? Some people may have a parent who's an English teacher or a math teacher, right? And so focus on that and kind of can score well in those areas. But there's other people that don't have that, like like myself. And I think the highest math I took in high school was, man, I know I got a D in geometry. And then after that, I didn't take trig and I didn't take I mean, geometry was the highest I went. And then I took business algebra and then business calculus, which I kind of forced myself through it.
Yep.
Um, but, so these, everyone has a starting point, right? John and I were in the like 500-ish area, high 500s. But ultimately, the score you want to get is in this 86 percentile above 700, will get you into the ballpark of
Yep.
kind of competing on the test, right? That being said, you don't necessarily need that if you have other parts of if you have a gold medal, right, as an Olympic athlete, or you're, running a startup already, right? There may be exceptions to the score, and I think that every school allows for a couple exceptions a year, but let's not bank on that, right? And you don't need to because with our process, you're going to go through it and it's going to make a lot more sense. And you're going to quickly see gains in your test scores, practice test scores, just over the course of time, right? Because all it is quality time put into this will allow you to kind of elevate your scores to that next level.
Hmm.
So with that, and we've talked about this multiple times, there is so much noise around the GMAT. It's like painful. There's billion-dollar companies that are making, all these review courses, and like they just want to sell you products that, and do you think that you can pay for getting a good score on the GMAT? It's not how it works. As John said, it's all about working hard to get the result you want, right? Where the essays are all about telling your story. Can you sell me on yourself, right? The GMAT is how bad do you want this degree, right? That's how I look at it. That's the approach that I think made me kind of work hard on it, right? As well as your kind of guidance and helping me through it. But this is a big business, all the test preparation, and you just got
Hmm.
to block out all the BS because there's a ton of it. And I literally went into a cave, and we'll talk about the caveman mentality that you need to apply when doing this, when going through the GMAT process. John,
Yep.
anything to add on this one?
No, no, no. Yeah, all those test prep companies. There's really no difference in my opinion. I think between the two of us, we've tried them all, and then we realized self study was just the way. Practice test. It was us versus the test. That was it. That's the battle. It's you versus the test. It's and nobody outside. An instructor, these self-study materials are great. They're great. They give you everything you need. I mean, they're just giving these instructors are just giving you all the questions that are already in the books anyway. So there's nothing there, and they give you explanations on how to solve it. So no shortcuts. You just continue. Just you got to put in the work. So
Yeah. So there's a mindset, and we've talked about mindset on every chapter. It's super important on this one. Like this is where the rubber hits the road, right? When you see like heavy weightlifters or bodybuilders going to the gym, right? They have to shift their mindset from being human into being just a muscle building machine, right? The key here is the same thing, right? On the GMAT. Like when you go down the study, your study time needs to be very, very focused, and because you're focused on quality input leads to quality output, right? And that's the
mm-hmm.
mindset you need to have going into this. So if you're trying to like cram out a half an hour on your lunch break and you're in your car doing a, practice, reading the practice book, like that's not what we're talking about here. This is waking up at 5 in the morning when nobody's awake and banging out going on a run for a half hour, then jumping into the GMAT and doing a practice test for 4 hours, right? That's the type of mindset that will get you the results you need, right? And what I think a lot of people do in the struggle with the GMAT is not getting into that mindset soon enough. And what that will look like is, okay, going back to our kind of, our time management schedule here. Let's say you're on the 80 hours a week schedule, right? And you only have weekends to study. Like, how tired are you going to be on the weekends? And how can you get yourself into that mindset to really hit it hard on the weekends? I mean, I know I personally can't, some people can, but that's just not who I am. I need to like decompress from a long week like that. The 40 hours a week, this is the issue that we see. It's okay, so you're working a 40-hour week job, right? And you have 30 or you have 16 hours for the GMAT on the weekend, right? Or 16 hours total. You have 8 hours on Saturday and Sunday. How much of that time can you actually spend hitting the GMAT hard, right? Because that's ultimately lead to your success. So if this is what your schedule looks like in the 40 hours, you're talking about 13 weeks, 3 months to complete to complete your the application. This is doable, but those weekends need to be fully dedicated to practice tests, and practice tests. Like that's it. And we'll practice tests and we'll kind of walk through what that means, but like that's the mindset you need to have, right? There's no family events of someone's birthday. Well, guess what? The birthday will be next year, right? Like this is it. This is no drinking, no whatever. Like it needs to be focused to achieve a top score on the GMAT. John, do you agree?
I agree. I agree. I agree. And I felt you really only have 3 or 4 hours of really good productive studying max a day, and for the GMAT, that's max. I mean, and those practice tests take 3 or 4 hours, and you need to at some, once you're trying to get in within that like 6 week mark, I think you need to be doing at least two or three of those a week. That's the best barometer. Those actually really
Yeah.
help you hone in on where you're at.
I mean, that's the magic key, and we'll hit on that is the practice test. But here's what like a schedule would look like for a GMAT robot, right? And this is no BS. This is kind of what I did in 2 months to get my score up 80 points. So on Friday, I would have a session with a math tutor to kind of review some of the math problems. So after work, I would meet with him for an hour. And then Saturday morning, I would jump right into a practice test. I would take a 2 hour break or 3 hour break. And then the afternoon, I would review that practice test. Sunday, same thing. And I did this for 13 weeks. And this got my score, or yeah, I did this for like 10 weeks, maybe, yeah, almost 13 weeks, but like around 10 to 13 weeks, I would say. And so
Yeah,
this is what your schedule needs to look like, right? And you can miss some of these weekday sessions as long as your weekend schedule looks like this. This is super important. This is how you get it done. No ifs and buts about it. There's no birthday parties you're going to. There's no happy hours. You're a robot for the next couple months. That's hands down what it is.
yeah, and those practice tests surprisingly are fairly accurate on how you're ultimately going to perform. Like,
Well,
you're gonna probably, yeah. I mean, they do a pretty good job of getting in, within a range of 20 points this way or 20 points that way of where you're gonna end up.
that's exactly right. And we'll dive into how to study and what to study on because I did, like we said, we did the courses and wasted a bunch of time. You read the Kaplan the book, that's a complete waste of time. It's really just practice tests. Like that's all that matters. And when you're not doing practice tests, you're doing timed sets of problems similar to a practice test. So what does that look like? That looks like, okay, I have 2 hours of study. Okay, I'm gonna take 40 questions on the verbal and time it just like it would be for the GMAT and try to complete those in the time allotted, right? And then go through it, see which ones you got wrong. The ones you get right and didn't guess, those are done. Those are you don't need to look at those anymore. But the ones you get wrong, those go into a pile. And what we're going to talk about this of problems that you just do over and over and over again. And as dumb as it sounds, it works. Like if you do a problem 5 times to actually understand how that problem works and how to get the right answer, that's just what it takes. The beauty of the timing is that because you're kind of rushing and you have a different mindset because the timer's on, you're not gonna it's not gonna like your memorization won't automatically click in, but it'll kind of help you. And then through memorization leads to ultimately learning. As dumb as it sounds, it works. My daughter is 1.5 years old. Like she just it's memorization leads to learning. Like that's how it works. It is what it is. So this is the schedule that ultimately folks need to be on to hit those high scores. So in terms of the GMAT machine, I mean, you have rate, time, distance. So let's make it a GMAT problem, right? The components are the quality of your studying, right? like we talked about, this needs to be when you're super focused. And as John said, most people only have a couple of hours a day. I can do it in the morning, and then I'll have to take a nap and then do some type of workout to then get back into that mindset. So you need to find how you get into that super efficient mindset. Um, so the rate also includes your existing knowledge base, as we talked about. If you're already good at math and you're already good, or you're already good at verbal, that's great. You need to take that all the way to the top level, right? Like if you're getting like an 85% math, you need to be getting like the 90 percentile or more in that subject matter. So like double down on your strengths and then go into your weaknesses, right? Because the key is with the GMAT studying, it's not getting the easy problems right. Like who cares? Because once you do these practice tests, you're just filtering through the problem sets to get to the problems that you don't understand and that are probably harder to then master those harder problems. Because the way the GMAT works is if you get the easy ones right, they give you a hard one. And if you get that one right, boom, they'll give you another hard one. You get that one right, now you're trending towards the top score, right? That's how it works. It's based on, how it's like a trending kind of problem set that you get based on how hard of questions you're getting right. So that's super important. So how to optimize the rate? It's practice tests. Like that's it. That's all you need to do to study is practice tests. Um, the counting coach, like the accountability coach, will keep you on the path. John kept me on the path. I would talk to him every week, and he'd be like, "How many practice tests do you do? Right? How are the scores?" That is super important, and like that's where like hiring a personal trainer is great, only if you're able to go in there and do the hard work, right? So it's like a team effort, team approach to this. That's I think the easiest and most efficient way to get this done. Your time that you have is largely fixed, right? We talked about it. What kind of job do you have? What other commitments, right? So you need to really plan out the time management in your ultimately like week schedule. And like all the other distractions, those need to go to the side for the next couple months. Like it is what it is. Like it frustrates me so much when I'm hear people talk about studying for the GMAT and they're going on like a vacation. And I'm like, it's one or the other. Like there's no because there's thousands of applicants out there that are just focused. They're in their cave cranking this stuff out. Like that's who you're competing with. And you just can't take it lightly. It's very important that you stay on task here. So go into your cave is super important. Be consistent, deep focus, quality time, effort is kind of where you need to be focused on. And then your distance on this is the GMAT score. So your output. Ultimately, you can't control this, so don't worry about it. But what you're going to see, and John and I kind of talked about, and we'll talk about in the next slide, is that the amount of practice tests you do ultimately leads to the score you're going to receive. Like that's it. That's the only thing you need to be focused on for the GMAT to get a good score. Anything I missed on this one, John?
No, you nailed it. You nailed it. I just yeah, you nailed it. So I have something towards the end that I'll mention.
Okay, so going a little bit deeper into the input, right? It's time practice tests. Okay, so you what you want to do, and I did this and it worked really well, is you buy as many books, or you can get them on eBay. Chances are you probably download all this stuff now, but you want to get as many problem sets as you possibly can, right? I think I did over 10,000 problems when I was doing the GMAT. I was such a robot. But the key is going through the easy ones, crossing those out. You don't never need to look at those again. The ones you get right, you're done. The key is banking the ones you get wrong, putting those into a different pile that you're going to go back to and repeat over and over again until you get those right. The funny thing about the GMAT is, especially, and it's very true on the math analytical side, is that there's only so many types of problems. Right? Like it is what it is. Like there's only so many problems. So like the framework of those problems it may be worded differently, or it may be like a different name of the person, or like, but there's only like the actual problem. Like there's only maybe 100. I don't know. There's not that many problems like in the actual GMAT that can come up. So like I literally did so many problems that I recognized 3 problems from just doing like the pretty much the exact same. Maybe the name of the person was different or something, but it was like the exact same problem. So I flew through those so quick on the actual GMAT test. And that's when you know you're like your preparation was solid. Is like you recognize problems that you've done in your practice on the actual test. So doing time
Yeah,
practice
yeah,
tests,
yeah. Yeah, that was wild. Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's like this. I've done this problem before. I was like, I already know the answer. You're like, wow. And you're like, I did a lot of practice problems. So
yeah,
yeah, and I mean they all the like Princeton review. That's what I mainly used the second time around when I got my 690. But the is it called the GMAC? Is that what it's called? The
GMAT or
governing
the
body, yeah,
official,
the governing body that actually oversees the GMAT, but
yeah,
they have something called like the official like they're all the like previous questions that were actually given on test. So that's like a great resource.
yes.
Yeah, so they and some of those questions actually a few, not a lot, but a few of those did come up, but they yeah, I mean they basically thrown the whole playbook at you. They're saying, hey, this is everything we've thrown at people to this date. So here you go. Here's the playbook, but get to work and study.
Yeah, that's 100% right. The GMAC, I think that's what the official book is called.
Yeah, I
Those
think it's
are
called,
really,
yeah,
really good. I mean, those are the best. The one knock on there is that you want to get more difficult problems, right? So
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like your whole goal of buying like is, and you can go on eBay and get used books. It doesn't matter, right? Like
Yep,
if
yep,
you
yep,
want to get just practice tests and then books that have problems, but have like the hardest problems. Like
yep,
those are the ones that you really, really want to focus on because that's how you get the top scores, right? So
yep,
as we talked about, it's a funnel approach, right? You're basically going through, in my case, I had to go through 10,000 problems, right?
yeah,
And you just remove all the incorrect or remove all the ones you get right and just focus on the ones that you're trying to collect all the problems that you don't understand and then master those problems. And what you'll see, and you'll be able to identify there's different type, like it could be the same type of problem that you keep getting wrong, but identify that type, whether it's like a rate times distance equals output or whatever, like that. Um, that could be one type of problem that you keep getting wrong. So you want to identify those types of problem and like solve that and like master that because that will allow you to get those problems right in the future.
yep.
But then it's once you have that, like what I did was I printed everything out and I made note cards, like actual physical note cards. I know it sounds weird, but then I would just I had them all in a box and I would just go through the one and I would make 40, right, of the math ones. And that would be my practice test. And I would just do 40 over and over again of problems that I just got wrong. And that ultimately led to my success because after a while, those 40 become 20, they become 10. Now you're just down to like a few problems that you keep getting wrong. So as weird as it sounds, it works. It's just a matter of repetition. So rinse and repeat ultimately leads to success. So this is the approach that I used. It's all based on practice tests and practice time sets. And so this is you could pay $10,000 to learn this approach, or you could get it from us today. So I paid 10,000 to learn this, and it works. But the key that made my success different because when I did the the when I paid the 10 grand for the tutor, I still got the same score as I got before. The key was learning this approach and then having the accountability coach, John, stay on my ass to make sure that I stayed on that schedule and completed all the practice tests that I needed to complete.
Yep, yep,
So then ultimately what we're talking about here, it's the number of practice tests equals your ultimate GMAT score. Like this is it. I mean, at the end of the day, people will ask us, oh, how much time do I need to put into this? How many practice, or, how do I get my score from a 600 to a 700? It's how many practice tests have you done, right? It's how structured is your studying around practice tests. Like, this is it. Like, this is the holy grail to the GMAT right here in one slide. If you want to put
Yep.
in, if you want to do 20 practice tests, yeah, you make it a 600. If you want to do 40, 650, yeah, right? And then if you want to do 50, now you're probably targeting a 700. Like, that's it. So this is,
That's it.
it's that simple. So this goes back to if every practice test is 4 hours, right? And we're talking about 300 hours of GMAT studying, this is it, right? So it'd be 4 times, 60 practice tests. We get you to 240, and then the review of those tests, right? We get you another 60 hours. So ultimately, this is how it shakes out in terms of the GMAT. I don't think there's any other way to get a good score unless you're just naturally gifted in one of those areas. But if you're someone like me who's never taken a practice test, like never taken a standardized test, went to community college, never took the ACT or SAT, like this is what I had to do to get the top score, to get a 680 and ultimately get me into Berkeley.
Yeah, and when you get in the program, you realize most people had to work their ass off to get those scores to get in there.
But
There's
nobody
a few
will
people
ever
that,
tell you,
yeah,
but no one will ever admit it, but
yeah,
everybody works their ass off. There's people
yeah,
that can brag, oh, it took me 10 hours to do the GMAT, I got a 700. That's great. But I promise you, that's not the true story.
yeah. I know.
So we covered a lot today in the GMAT. I know we're not walking through problems, but it's the process and it's the amount of hard work and determination that you have that leads to the success of the GMAT. And no Kaplan,
Yeah,
no Princeton review, no one's going to tell you that because they want you to keep buying their courses, buying their books, spending money that you don't need to spend. All this can be done for a couple $100, just buying the cheapest books and problem sets you can buy. Probably half of them are downloadable online somewhere, but this is the
yeah.
key to.
I just looked. You can buy all four, the bundle of all four books for the official GMAT questions. That's like $71 on Amazon, and then yeah, the Princeton Review GMAT. Let's just see. Let's see if we can pull it up here. Let's see. Let's
Yeah,
see.
it doesn't matter. The key
No, it
here,
doesn't matter, but it's yeah, you don't need to spend more than a couple $100 on books total. Yeah, you can buy yeah, man. It's the Princeton Review is on 20, $30. So it's like you can get all of it for $100.
yeah,
That's all
the
you
key
need.
here
That's all
is
you need.
learn from our mistakes in terms of time and efficiency and just ultimately the grit that's required. And that's what we're teaching here is that like guys, with an accountability coach, with this approach and mindset you have, you can get the GMAT score to where you need it to be. That's
I'm
100%. I promise if I can do it, you guys can do it as well.
yeah. I mean, me and you are both terrible standardized test takers.
I
Terrible.
never even took
So
one before this, dude. I mean, that
yeah, I
was
mean, I was actually shocked, man, and that feeling, man, when you actually get that score you were dreaming of. Wow, man, it's the best feeling in the world, and all the
it.
hard work you put into it,
There's nothing. I mean, I've had some
best
success in my
feeling in the
life,
world.
but that's top five,
Yeah,
100%. It's more rewarding than getting the MBA degree, like the degree.
yeah. To be honest, that's the most memorable part. Yeah, I don't even remember getting my diploma. I
Yeah,
remember, I remember the score.
graduation.
That yeah, the score was like that was a game changer. That was like such a feeling of accomplishment.
This is when you know you can do anything you like set your mind to. So like through the MBA process, you're going to learn how to sell yourself. You're going to learn super hard work and grit leads to ultimate success. Like that's what they want, right? In the application. So going back to the 6 easy steps of completing the Stanford MBA application
Mm,
process, like, does this look easy? No, it's a lot of hard work, right? But it's doable, and it's doable if you follow these steps that we're outlining here today. So with that, guys, we're
100%.
super excited. A couple more chapters to talk about success ultimately in the overall GMAT and MBA application process. But thank you all for hanging in there with us on the GMAT. It's kind of one of those topics that a lot of people have different kind of thoughts on, but I think ours is it's proven. We've done it. So this is the real story behind the GMAT.
Love it. Love it. All right.